Welcome back to the Cruise Dynasty Podcast. We are back at it again, dropping some of that content for your ass. You can find me at Crew Matt Hamm. I am the host, along with my homies. I got the Craft Man with me as always. What's going on, Craft Man?
Same old thing, man. Just enjoying doing the podcast, and just want to say thank y'all to everybody out there listening. Seeing a little uptick in viewers, we like to hear it, we like to see it, and we're just trying to put in some work during the off season and try to give some people a little bit of advice.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for listening to that last episode. Got a lot of people listening to that last episode where we talked some shit about folks on Twitter. Maybe it wasn't really like that, but we did go after some narratives. But I got the tech guy with us. Our tech guy got Chris Shiver in the building, or I meant C Swizzy. What's going on, C Swizzy?
Not much. I did enjoy that episode though. That was good content. It doesn't seem like you're just. I mean, you're talking shit for sure, but it doesn't. Like you're not like talking shit.
Yeah, like we definitely wasn't acting crazy. I feel like I went back and listened to it. I definitely don't feel like people would be mad at us or anything like that, right, Kraft?
No, I mean I think we gave a lot of respect to everybody out there because they do put in a lot of hard work, and just because we got our opinions, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be right at the end of it. It's just good back and forth banter, which that's what makes fantasy great, is because the different opinions is what makes fantasy go. If everybody thought the same about every player, it just wouldn't be fun. So,
right. And I hope everybody, is doing good in the fantasy world out there, because if y'all are doing good at your fantasy content, then it helps us out too. Maybe one day when they drop that fantasy football network on TV, we'll all be on that shit. You know what I mean? So, but shoot, man, tonight we got a little bit of episode. I was when me and Kraft was going through it and we were talking about it, I was just talking about this is going to be like our not so sexy list right here. But get a bunch of young guys out here that, you can get for cheap. Maybe you could get them to throw it in a deal that, if you're sending packages back and forth, you can get some of these young guys. And these are young guys that, I guess we'll say that we're high on them, I guess, but I could sit here and be like, oh, go get Olave, go get Drake London. Like, that's just too simple. These are guys down here in the little weeds right here that we just gonna, check it out, see what's up.
Yeah.
What's that, Kraft?
Just players that I think you can acquire and don't have to give up a crazy amount to get them. We got a couple guys on here that may be a little obvious, but nothing like you said, like Garrett Wilson, Olave, Breece Hall. We're not really hitting on these guys in this episode. It's more of, players that you can acquire without, giving up everything. So,
yeah. So heck, we'll just jump right on in, man. Because my first one on my list I got is Romeo Dubs. I call him Dubs, man, because I was on the phone with old poor man P. Miller. We ain't had him on in a little bit, but I said, Phil, I just can't call the guy Romeo Dobbs because the OU does not make an ah sound in my opinion. So it's Romeo Dubs tonight. But listen, let me just put on my case. Romeo Dubs, he was a 4th round pick in the 2022 draft for the Green Bay Packers. Your Green Bay Packers, Crap man. And this is just, I don't know how many games. He had a few games where he was out targeting Christian Watson. I can't remember how many games that was. So sorry about that one. But right now, reports from several practices that Romeo Dobbs is being proven to be his Jordan Love's favorite target out there. So with that said, you ain't hearing shit about the other guys from the Packers. I ain't hearing nothing from Christian Watson. I ain't hearing nothing from these guys that they drafted, but at least I've heard a little something from Romeo Dobbs. I'm not saying Romeo Dobbs is going to end up being a top 12 dynasty guy or anything like that. I'm just saying, hey, in PPR formats, this guy could have value right here. He could just, maybe like a lesser Chris Godwin or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Maybe Chris Godwin's a little extreme for what I'm saying, but you get what I'm saying. Like, gets the targets, maybe not make big plays all the time, but I like me some Romeo Dubs.
Yep, second-year receivers, they always take a step up. There was a point last year from week 3 to week 8 where he had an 80% snap share or higher, so he was on the field. Christian Watson had his breakout, and Christian Watson is just one of them guys that I feel like is a little more unattainable than Dobbs, but Dobbs actually had more receptions than Christian Watson did last year. But like you said, not as many big plays. But if you just want to throw a second out there to somebody, I think you might could get Dobbs for a second. Not from you, Matt. Not from you, but I think that is his value right now, and I wouldn't mind throwing a second out there. Like, just put it in a case like this to put a player to a name. Would you rather have Jonathan Mingo, who was probably early second-round pick, or would you rather have Dobbs at this point, Chris?
You asking the
Jonathan Mingo? You're asking the Panther fan? Jonathan Mingo. We've got DJ Chark and Adam Thielen. I want somebody's got to be catching balls in Carolina. I wouldn't mind having a lot of them, but we don't know how it's going to be. I ain't seen Jordan Love play in the NFL really that much, and I haven't seen Bryce Young play in the NFL, so.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Kraft. I feel like that one is a little tough one right there. And you know what? I guess we'll just go ahead and name the Cruise Dynasty podcast as Romeo Dubs, guys, because me and you might be higher on him than anybody out there in the industry. I ain't seen one tweet about old Romeo Dubs or Dobbs. So that one is tough. Well, I don't even know. I guess I would say, I don't know, man. I don't know. That was tough. If I was in 4 leagues, I'm going to give me 2 Mingos and 2 Dobbs. What you say, Kraft?
I mean, I would prefer Dobbs. I think it's pretty close. But he's just a guy that I've been trying to go out there and get in every league because I don't feel like you're going to have to give up. You can give up a third and a small piece or – like a Nico Collins. What if I sent you like a Nico Collins and a third or a second? Maybe it can get it done.
Give me
Nico
Dobbs
Collins and a
all
second.
day.
Yeah, I would keep Dobbs.
Yeah, same. Hey, well, listen, this is from experience, Kraft, because I'm not gonna say I've just straight up targeted Dobbs or anything like that, but in like 3 of my dynasty, I'm not like these other analysts where I'm in 27 dynasty leagues. I'm in 4. I got Dobbs in 3 of them. I gave up a late second to get Romeo Dobbs, so late second seems okay. Heck, I'd give up. Honestly, the way me and you feel about him, I'll give up an early second for him if I'm just being honest with you.
What about all the second round rookie pick running backs that went? Other than Kendre Miller, I'm sure you keep him, but like a Tajay Spears or Abanikanda, somebody like that. Would you send one of them guys to try to go get them?
I'll take Dubs all day.
Yeah, I think I would too.
And, like, you made a little joke about it earlier, talking about, what was it? Something about, you can't get it from me for a second. I'd rather just hold Dobbs, you know what I mean? But I don't know. If you can get a first, you might as well just sell him. So, Kraft, if you want to send me that 24 first, take advantage of them Packers fans out there now. Kraft man's thinking about it deep down.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Not this early in the year. Maybe week 10 if I'm like 8-1 or something like that. And I know that pick is going to be like number 12 or something, or 9 to 12. I might debate it if Dobbs is having a decent season, but you're not getting my first. Nobody. I'll just go ahead and tell everybody this: y'all are not getting my 2024 first before this season starts. It's not a good time.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get that 25 though.
You already got one of them. I still got one left.
So yeah, man, Romeo Dobbs. That's the first guy on my list. Kraft man, what you got for me?
Well, the guy that I just traded for, Jahan Dotson, and like we said, not all these guys are really in the weeds. Jahan Dotson isn't, but I feel like he's getting a little bit of disrespect compared to the other guys like Olave and Garrett Wilson and players like he's even behind Treylon Burks in ADP, which I would rather have Dotson. They both don't have the best quarterback play, and a lot of people like Burks because of the target volume he's going to get. But just give me Dotson. There was over his final 5 games last year, he had 35 targets. And that is actually one more than Terry McLaurin had in that same time span. So I'm starting to look at this wide receiver room as more of a 1A, 1B type situation rather than Terry McLaurin being the main guy with Dotson coming in as a second receiver. I think he has potential to take a massive leap and be over 1,000 yards this year. And we all know he had a lot of touchdowns last year. That might come down. But what do you want the guy to do? Not score touchdowns?
Yeah, Chris, you got you a little history with Dotson. You got any kind words to say about the man?
I mean, I feel the same way. It's like 1A, 1B. A lot of people, they throw this hate on Jahan Dotson and all this. They forget that this dude was the 16th overall pick. He came into a offense that didn't know what it wanted to do, had a quarterback that heavily favored, even when Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel were there, who can't remember, but they would flip-flop. One would only throw to Curtis Samuel, the other one would only throw to Terry McLaurin. And the one that wasn't throwing to Terry McLaurin liked to throw it to Jahan Dotson. That's when he had that big start at the beginning, had the 4 touchdowns and stuff. But if he can obtain that amount of red zone targets is where it's going to be the most effective, I think, for him. Because they're going to have to respect Terry McLaurin, and now they're going to have to learn how to respect Jahan Dotson back there, too. So it's going to come down to Sam Howell either way.
Right. So I think really what you're alluding to is like what Chris was saying is Jahan Dotson started off real high, even as a rookie, and that was with Carson Wentz at quarterback. So I know Jahan Dotson came out a little bit because of injury, but even when he came back, he was solid. I was looking at his numbers. Jahan Dotson had a good season with a clusterfuck at quarterback, and now he's getting Sam Howell, who I know Craftman's a little higher on Sam Howell, but honestly, I am too a little bit. So maybe we can get some stability at quarterback. New offensive coordinator. I think there's reason to be high on Jahan Dotson, but real quick, because we threw Jahan Dotson on this list, on this little not so sexy list, because our tech guy Chris traded what was it? You traded a second and a third for Jahan Dotson.
And a 24 second and a 24 third.
So when I saw that, I was like, damn, that's good. I'll take that Jahan Dotson all day. So then Kraft, you did a trade with Chris, and you traded a 24 second and a 25 first, and we put that trade on Twitter, and you said it was half and half. I didn't really look at it too much, but like some people were saying that it was a bad trade and stuff like that.
Yep.
So it's like, if that's too much, and then I look at Chris's deal and think, damn, that's a good deal. It's like, to me, it feels like some people are still underestimating Jahan Dotson out there. So I guess his value is somewhere in the middle, but you're right. I'll take Jahan Dotson over Treylon, and I've been smashing on Treylon at best ball all day. So that was a tough one.
Chris got a second and a third, but I don't think that was a good trade at all for the guy who gave up Dotson. And I mean, Chris, you can attest to it right here. Like, I felt like I pretty much had to offer you a first. I mean, I don't even think you would have gave him up for just a 2024 first.
Nah.
So you had to add something to it.
I thought about that too, because it being a 25 first, but then that second. But then I was thinking, I was like, I mean, I just got to go ahead and smash on it. Because I like Jahan Dotson too. I thought about it because I went out and I couldn't believe I got that dude for a second and a third. I mean, he accepted that and I was like, oh shit, okay, cool. And then a few days later, I get that trade from you, and I was like, I mean, I like Dotson, but I gotta ship it out for that.
Well, what is his value though, as far as picks go?
That's
players.
a great fucking question, Kraft. Great fucking question.
I mean, I'm looking at ADP here, and there's a couple receivers going ahead of them that I don't necessarily agree with. You got Christian Kirk, Jamison Williams is still going ahead of them. Keenan Allen at age 31 is going ahead of him. Zay Flowers is going ahead of him by a long shot. So it's just one of them things where I felt like his value is down, and this, like I said, this is what makes fantasy great is like, if you don't like them, that's fine. If you like them, then go get them. I mean, no, you're going to get judgment either way, and that I embrace. When I put it on Twitter, I hope people judge because, like I said, I might be wrong, but I'm gonna go get the guy that I want on my team. So,
Right. Yeah, I think I made a comment, when we was all in studio together, I was talking about Jahan Dotson. He was like, what? I don't even know. Like, he went behind a lot of guys in the 2022 draft. Like, there was a whole bunch of guys like, London, Wilson, Burks, Olave. But I was saying, like, if Jahan Dotson was in this past draft, I'd probably take him over. I mean, I would clearly take him over Zay Flowers, and I was high on Zay Flowers. But who were the main guys? JSN, Addison, Quentin Johnson. I mean, who would you rather have? Would you rather have Quentin Johnson or Jahan Dotson?
that one would be close. I would probably prefer QJ just based on Justin Herbert being there, and I don't think Mike Williams and Keenan's going to be there for much longer. So I'd take my shot on Quentin Johnston, but 16th overall pick is nothing to write home about. I mean, that's a good draft capital for a guy who showed a lot of potential last year. So I go get him.
So Jahan Dotson, maybe he don't fit the bill of all these guys we're talking about, but we just see a little opening. Like, you could still go buy Jahan Dotson out there. And I don't think there's really any cause for concern to act like he can't do better than what he did last year. So
yeah. And
all right.
If I had to give any advice, I would probably start off the trade by offering 2 seconds and see if you could do it. I think that could happen. If you gave up a 2024 and a 2025 second, maybe you can get Dotson, but I wouldn't go out there and just give up a first right off the bat before the season starts, especially not knowing where your first is going to be. But I think you can acquire him for a couple seconds in some leagues.
Right. Not with the crew, though. Go ahead and just put the crew down as a Jahan Dotson as one of our guys, too. So, but Chris,
like
you got any?
Sit on that pick that I got, and I don't. In no way do I think that I just absolutely demolished him in this trade. Like, I feel like that is fair value. 16th overall pick. He was injured, but when he played, he got the target share. Like we said, Terry McLaurin only had one more reception than him during that time.
Right.
So one less target during
one
that
less.
time.
Yes, one less.
So, yeah, go out there and get you some Jahan Dotson if people are low on him still. Chris, you got any names you want to throw out there? All right. I got another one for you then, Craft Man. And this is my guy John Mechie. Now this was a little different because I can't sit here and throw out numbers and all that shit. But John Mechie got second round draft capital in the 2022 draft in that stacked wide receiver class. You know what's funny? I look back and everybody's back in the day, that 22 class, man, it was so weak, man. What a weak ass class that was. And that 23 class, man, that shit was the best one in a quarter of a century or whatever. But that 22 class, wide receiver wise, was stacked as fuck. So, but anyways, John Mechie, second round draft pick in the 2022 draft, missed last season because of leukemia. As far as the team goes, Brandon Cooks traded away. Nico Collins, unproven. He didn't do shit last year. They bring in Tank Dell. I can't even sit here and act like I know anything about Tank Dell. I'm just being honest. The only thing I know about Tank Dell is CJ Stroud allegedly said he wants Tank Dell on his team. So he got Tank Dell. But as far as like John Mechie, he's just a guy I feel like you can get for nothing to take a shot at. Like, I'm not sitting here acting like John Mechie is going to be great or anything, but I mean, throw a third out there for John Mechie. Just see what happens. I mean, well, who are you going to get with your third round pick? If you think you might have a late second, throw it out there for John Mechie. Who knows? I think John Mechie was going in rookie drafts, was going like mid-second round as it is. He sat out a whole year. But, I like his second round draft capital. The only thing I will say is there's a whole new regime coming in, and sometimes that don't work out well, but they're going to have an upgrade at quarterback. So go out there and get John Mechie. I can't throw numbers out there for you. I can just say I watched him at Alabama. He was good, but he was at Alabama playing with Bryce Young. So I would just say John Mechie is like a guy I would love to go take a shot on, and I am taking a shot on him in a couple leagues. So go for it.
Yeah, I agree with you. His ADP, there's a couple receivers like Odell Beckham is going before John Mechie. I guess you could. Would you rather have Odell? I mean, I don't think at this point in his career that I would do that. And Allen Lazard, Jaden Reed are all going ahead of him. So I think that it's a shot in the dark, but it's definitely somebody you can add for a third rounder at this point. So I wouldn't mind going out there and trying to acquire him. But truthfully, the Houston offense is one of them that I'm not really trying to attack, just like the Giants is another offense that I'm not really high on as far as the receivers go, just because it's so wide open. But in those offenses, they're pretty decent to try to trade late round picks for, because all these receivers in those offenses are you're not gonna have to give up a second or a first to try to get some, just to take a shot on a guy, a pass catcher on a bad team. So I think you might be a little higher on him than I am, but it's not bad.
And like when I say high, I'm not acting like he's going. I don't even know if he'll be a top 24 guy at some point, but you might as well just go ahead and take a shot on somebody like John Mechie. I mean, I don't really see why not with the second round draft capital, but it's like I said, you can't really say too much about John Mechie. You're just gonna have to just go with the flow. I mean, they're in Houston down there, I mean, you know what I mean, crap? Like, there's not much to say. It's just like, do you want to take a shot with this guy or not? And the shot ain't even really a shot. Do you just want to go out there? You can get John Mechie thrown in a package deal.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't think anybody's really. I haven't seen anything about him on Twitter or nothing like that where people are diehard John Mechie fans. I know the analytics people don't really like him because of the route tree that he ran at Alabama, but analytics work out a lot sometimes, so I'm not going to hate all on analytics. Because he might just be a bad receiver. Who knows?
Hey, but I will say this. I like to use the eye test. John Mechie, he was pretty good. But with that said, he did have Jameson Williams as his teammate and all that. So if John Mechie's looking to, maybe he struggles if he's like the number one guy. I don't know. If it doesn't work out, like he's so cheap, it doesn't really fucking matter. So
exactly,
you know what I mean, Craft Man?
Oh yeah, I mean, look at the third round receivers that come off this year, like a Cedric Tillman or somebody like that. Just give me Mechie instead. He had a better college profile, and like Chris mentioned earlier with was it Dobbs we were talking about, or Jonathan Mingo or whoever we were talking about, but slot receivers do pretty well with rookie quarterbacks, so he might be a nice safety valve for C.J. Stroud.
So that feels like enough for John Mechie's ass.
That's a lot about. That's more than anybody's talked about Mechie ever.
I will say, I don't know who y'all are getting John Mechie for a second from, but I've already tried that, and that shit got declined. I tried to get John Mechie.
You talking about from Will?
Yeah.
Hey, I've tried too. Will ain't coming off, so Will buys in.
Yeah, I think I offered him a second and a third too. I was like, because I mean, shit. I think that who's gonna catch the balls? Nico?
Youngin coming in.
Shout out to Silas. Shout out to him. It's funny. My sister walked in at the same time too. Everybody's just walking in. But yeah, what you call it? What else? You got another name for me, Craft Man?
Yeah, one guy that I've been trying to get left and right, just like I've been trying to get Dobbs for you, is Elijah Moore. I've been sending out trade offers over and over again, trying to go up and get Elijah Moore. But last year, he might just the Jets did not want anything to do with him. He was wanting to get out of there based on quarterback play. The coaching staff didn't seem to like him. You don't really see it that often, a second-year receiver demanding out. But there was a stretch back in 2021 where he was just great. And I don't like going back 2 years, but in that year, he averaged 12.6 points per game back in 2021. So if you can – and the Cleveland offense is one of the offenses that I'm trying to target right now, because I think what happened last year with Deshaun Watson – that it's not going to be that bad. Deshaun Watson's a good quarterback. The rust is going to be knocked off. He's going to be another great quarterback, and we're going to be talking about him probably in the first round of startups next year.
They play a last place schedule too.
Yeah. So I'm targeting that offense for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was preaching buy low on them guys all year last year. You could pretty much buy low on all them Browns guys except for Chubb and Amari Cooper. Well, heck, you might could on Amari Cooper if you're talking to guys like me and Kraft who don't respect that man enough. Yeah, Elijah Moore's. I wanted to say a little something about Elijah Moore because he just got traded. Let's see, the trade was the Jets got what the fuck did the Browns got Moore and a third-round pick. And the Jets got a second-round pick. That's not exactly a shitty-ass trade. Like, that's not exactly 5th and 6th round picks being floated around. So, in my opinion, Elijah Moore had a terrible year last year, but he did have he had a pretty good stretch at the end of the year in 2021. So, I mean, Elijah Moore's like a perfect buy low. You could throw a third out there. Heck, I tried to buy him today, couldn't get him. Shout out to David Thomas, bitch ass. Don't want to give me Elijah Moore. But yeah, and I've seen Deshaun Watson. Me and Chris, we're Clemson fans, so we've seen Deshaun Watson like every game. I mean, the dude, he'll use a slot guy. So if Elijah Moore gets up there in that slot, you know what I'm saying? Like, that could be gold right there. And
not to mention that Amari Cooper's, there's a good chance that he could be gone next year. This might be the last year that Amari Cooper's in Cleveland, and if Elijah Moore shows some potential this year, he could be their number one guy come next year. And their roster, their wide receiver room is not great. I mean, you got Cedric Tillman, David Bell, Donovan Peoples-Jones there, who I actually like too. He's actually on my list of somebody that I could go try to acquire for a third. But their receiver room just doesn't scare me. And like you said, that trade, a second-round pick, they didn't try to get Elijah Moore and trade nothing to get him.
Real quick, I mentioned he had that stretch in weeks 7 through 13 because I think Elijah Moore finished that year hurt in 2021. He had 34 catches for 459 yards and 5 touchdowns, and he was the 34th overall pick in the second round. This dude ain't just some bum that we're talking about. This dude's good. It just didn't work out in New York. But New York, I mean, damn, a lot of players don't work out with the Jets. I mean, I ain't saying the Browns as an organization is much better. But they somehow got Deshaun Watson up in there by throwing all that money, so... I'm honestly Elijah Moore. If I'm just talking about all the names that we're talking about, I know it's crazy to say, but he feels like the safest one. He feels like the safest one of these guys. I don't really see him just flaming out like that.
Would you rather have Rashee Rice or Elijah Moore?
Rashee Rice.
Yeah,
He's got Patrick Mahomes throwing him the ball.
I do feel like that's tough. I mean, You know how I feel about the Kansas City receiving core. I think they're just gonna piece it up, do what they did with Tom Brady, and just throw a bunch of scrubs out there and let Patrick Mahomes win rings. I mean, but Elijah Moore too is. I mean, he didn't do shit last year. Like we're sitting here saying, but it's like he ain't did shit. So that's tough. We keep throwing some tough ones out here, Crafts.
I have a hard time of giving up on receivers who had such a great rookie year. Like it just doesn't happen that often. And like I mentioned in the last episode, when a receiver comes out there and has a stellar rookie year, he's usually a good player. I really just going to give him the benefit of the doubt of last year, and we usually don't do that much on this podcast where a player doesn't play and he's asking for trades. But this is one guy that I think, like New York, Garrett Wilson, it was just a headache, and he wanted out, and he got out.
It's funny. Chris was talking about Rashee Rice. When we was doing those rookie breakdowns, I did like Rashee Rice's tape and stuff, and that dude had I think when we look back, he was playing with like broken toes and shit like that. So, hey, Rashee Rice, go out there and get Rashee Rice, shit. Especially with people being high on Kadarius Toney and shit. So, maybe we should have threw him on the list. I guess before we move on, you got any wide receivers? You know what? Go ahead and throw Don Fitzpatrick-Jones. You got any more wide receivers out there?
Yeah, I got Rashad Bateman. He's still 23 years old. Zay Flowers is the new hotness, but everything that has came out of Lamar Jackson's mouth is that Rashad Bateman is the number one receiver for this team. You can look at it as, they got a lot of mouths to feed. But, I mean, we do it with San Fran with a lot of mouths to feed. All it takes is for one guy to go down, and he could become, very relevant. He had a good stretch at the start of last year. But went down with the Liz Frank injury like ETN had, so didn't play much. But that's kind of been his thing. He's been injured. But as far as the age goes, still 23 years old. I would love that. I've been trying to get him too.
Yeah, personally, I just traded for Rashad Bateman. I traded daggone Tajay Spears a second, a couple thirds in there, and I figured, hey, what the fuck? You might as well just go ahead and take Rashad Bateman. That team's about to be packed. I'm telling y'all, man. I mean, I know y'all believe me, but people out there who are listening, that Baltimore Ravens team's about to be slinging the rock. Lamar Jackson's about to be throwing the ball, and me and Chris, I always got to bring it up. We're Clemson fans. We saw Lamar Jackson. The dude can make throws, man. I don't know what the fuck people talking about, trying to act like the dude ain't accurate and shit. Maybe he goes through stretches where he's not accurate. I don't know. But I don't know, man.
I mean, before Rashad Bateman and all that, who the hell was he throwing the ball to other than Mark Andrews?
Hollywood.
Oh, Hollywood. Back when Hollywood wasn't shit.
Yeah.
So, I'll take Rashad.
He's got Odell though. They got Odell. What do you mean? I like Zay Flowers though. Rashad Bateman's gonna be the number one for sure. I don't know why in some of like this ADP and all that, Zay Flowers is going that much higher than him. Rashad Bateman is gonna be the number one. My thing about Zay Flowers though is I want the Ravens slot receiver. I feel like that dump down is going to be nice. They're going to have to respect Mark Andrews in the red zone. And, Zay Flowers is just going to be hitting them little slants, fucking curling in, and they just going to dump it right off to him. So I'm thinking that he's going to have a bunch of touchdowns. His yardage might not be there, but I think that Zay Flowers' touchdowns could be sneaky this year.
He's a killer athlete, too. I loved his tape. If he would have went to a different situation, like if he would have went to the Vikings, I would be just as high on Zay Flowers as I am on Jordan Addison. It was really just the landing spot that he went to that put him behind them guys, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I like that Zay Flowers tape too, and I watched him a lot. So, and then Rashad Bateman, I'm not gonna sit here and Akil sent me something. Akil Galani, he hops on the pod with us all the time. Sent me something about guys who were scouted in that class, and Rashad Bateman was graded up there with Jamar Chase. So go ahead and just take a shot on Rashad Bateman. So if he could stay healthy, you know, it could pan out. You got any more wide receivers for me?
No, but every time I've seen Bateman play, he's been good. It's just been injuries, really. But that's all for receivers. If you want to take a shot on Sky Moore or something like that, I wouldn't mind sending a late second to try to go get Sky Moore, but not really high on him.
Right. I'm with you. I mean, go take a shot on Sky Moore if you want to. I'm not really high on any of the receivers. I'm not really high on Kadarius Toney either. So, heck, Rashee Rice might be the guy for all we know.
I mean, I don't know if there is going to be a guy, to tell you the truth. I think it's most likely not going to be a guy. I just give up. There's just a couple, like I said, the Giants, the Chiefs, the Texans. These receiver rooms, I'm not trying to get too involved with. I'll take one shot, but you're not going to see my dynasty team filled with Toney, Sky Moore, Rashee Rice, and just like holding on to all of them, hoping something happens, because they all might just be like Scantlin was last year, just average. Nobody did anything, and they won he threw for 5,000 yards, and not one of their receivers was a top 24 guy. So,
right,
you just don't see that.
All right, well, shoot, man, that was a lot of wide receivers we dished out there. Go get those guys, man. Go get them. But right here, I'm just gonna throw a few running backs. Maybe we won't spend too much time on these running backs, but I got a few of them for you. You know, I got Dameon Pierce. A lot of people don't want to hear Dameon Pierce, but I'm just gonna be real. Dameon Pierce is catching the hate still, even after his rookie year, where you can still go get him for cheap. Go throw a second out for Dameon Pierce. You might get him. You never know. I don't know. I'll admit I did trade Dameon Pierce. I got Dalvin Cook back, but it was like in a package deal, stuff like that. But Dameon Pierce always crosses my path somehow. I don't know how. I even got him in the startup, and that one with all these heavy hitters. But Dameon Pierce, 4th round pick. Workhorse. To me, he's got the workhorse back. And Devin, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Devin Singletary don't even scare me in the slightest, man. I'm sorry, man. For all those people out there, maybe he does. Maybe he takes away some of the passing game. But I wrote it down right here. Games here, 12, because one of them was his first game. And, you know, they had old Rex Burkhead's bitch ass out there. He saw at least 3 targets, including 2 games of 5 targets and 2 games of 6 targets. He gets some targets out there, and he runs the ball good. I like Dameon Pierce. I'm not saying he's going to be a top 12 back, but if you're looking for, you know, like a solid RB2, Dameon Pierce is your guy. I mean, I guess nobody's out there looking for an RB2 and looking for some depth out there for some reason. Everybody wants Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker. But here's news for y'all. You can't go get Breece Hall. You might could go. Well, I'll say this. You might could go get Kenneth Walker. But Dameon Pierce you can get for the cheap, I feel like. What you think about that one, Kraft, man?
Well, I'm just looking back at his game log last year, and he was a RB 20 or better in 8 out of 13 games that he played. So he was definitely an RB2 and borderline RB1 when he was in. The main thing, the argument here really is the depth chart. I feel like did get better. Rex Burkhead was there last year.
Agreed.
And whatever. Whoever, Goomba Wale, is that the guy that was there also? But I just think Singletary's a pretty decent back, and I want Dameon Pierce to succeed. I want these guys that get drafted late to succeed. But when they get drafted that late, new coaching staff coming in this year, he could be their guy. He could also just, you know, flare off like a James Robinson did. He had a couple great years that looked good because the volume was there. But if James Robinson was a first-round pick or a second-round pick, he would still be playing on a team right now, getting opportunities. It's unfair, but that's just the way the NFL works. When there's not draft capital and money involved, the Texans could easily go out and draft another running back next year if they feel like it. What do you think, Chris?
See, when I like Dameon Pierce, and like you said, I do want him to succeed and all, but from a dynasty standpoint, I see getting Dameon Pierce as kind of like a rental because he does not have the draft capital. He is replaceable. He is on the Houston Texans that are in no way going to be contending for the next few years. They're going to have decent picks. Somebody that doesn't have the draft capital, I mean, hell, a second round running back could come in and just easily replace him. They could sign a free agent, all this other stuff. But as far as that, I'm not worried about old Singletary in the backfield back there. I ain't worried about that at all. I've never been a Singletary guy, I don't think. His situation in Buffalo, just he had that good team and they just couldn't finish. But Dameon Pierce's got value, but I see it. I just view it as a rental. Like I just feel the word replaceable whenever I think Dameon Pierce.
All right, so hear me out on this, because I know draft capital, and it means a lot, and I agree. But this is a question that I gotta ask about how the NFL, about how they view running backs. There's just not many guys going up in the top. But we should do a whole fucking topic about this one day, Kraft, because this is my question. It's like, all these running backs are getting drafted on like day 3 and stuff like that, or late day 2. So I'm just wondering, when does the fantasy community just when do we adjust and just say, it's like, why are we looking at draft capital too much? I think we should just accept the draft capital and then just accept we should just bail on these guys after like 2 seasons. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know really how to word it. I feel like I'm wording it wrong. I've been drinking a few beers and stuff, but it's like, all these guys that we like don't have good draft capital at this point, except unless you want to go get Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, and all these guys. It's like, we're just pushing a lot of these guys back. Like I even have questions about guys that I like watching on film this year. Me and you broke a lot of film down. Like, I liked Zach Evans, and then like Dwayne McBride, he went late and stuff like that. But I'm just wondering if we should value them a little bit higher, even though they're easily replaceable, because all these guys are seeming like they're replaceable. You know what I mean?
I mean, all of them do seem like it could be. Like you said, the running backs that are in their rookie contract, and like Jonathan Taylor, players like that, Breece Hall, them guys probably not going to get replaced. But I mean, look at Kenneth Walker. He was a first-round pick. They drafted a running back in the second round anyway. And same thing goes. I put Dameon Pierce and Isaiah Pacheco. I got Pierce higher, but I'm scared to death of Pacheco too, because I mean, if 7th round draft capital, and the Chiefs are always a contending team, always going to be in it, Super Bowl aspirations every year. If they feel like they're not paying Pacheco anything, next year they come in and they find, if there's an explosive guy, like say next year there's a Jahmyr Gibbs in the draft. You don't think the Chiefs are going to go out there and try to get somebody like that? I mean, there was rumors that they were looking at Gibbs, that if the Lions didn't take him, that the Chiefs would have drafted him. So you're going to have to worry about that every year. So I think it's best to get away from Pierce right now, and it might come back and bite you in the ass. But like you said, there's no way as a fantasy community to even predict what's going to happen in these in these backfields. It's just, you watch Dameon Pierce, you like the tape, you like what he's shown on the field, which I did too, and you're just higher on him than some of the other people. And you might be right, but it's totally unpredictable. There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say the same. Like, even with Pacheco, seventh round pick. Like, if I was gonna go get Pacheco, I would just view him as just having him for 1 or 2 years and then ditching him. Just like the Chiefs, what they probably gonna do, they're gonna go ditch him. But I don't know if I see that as a negative. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I should be doing that with all these running backs now. So it's like, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't mind going and getting a Pacheco and a Pierce and stuff, knowing that, hey, after this year, I'm probably gonna try to get rid of your ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah, after this year, but is the value gonna be is it going to be further down next year? Because this year Pacheco's and Pierce's value is pretty decent value right now. At the end of next year, you might not be able to get what you can get now for them.
But that's another thing where I get to is like you can't get a first for Damian Pierce or Pacheco. You might could get a second, maybe. You know
could
what
get
I
a
mean? So you
first
might
for
as well
Pierce.
just boom and just roll. You think you can get a first for Pierce?
I think you could.
Maybe a late first.
I would
You know,
never
what you
give
think?
up a first for Pierce.
I would
Some
have to
people really
be
like him.
competing.
Well, I'm telling you right now, I don't give a fuck if they really like him. Like, you know, I'm not giving up a first for him.
Who
just to
went
the
at the
point-
112 in a rookie draft this year? Around that area.
Maybe like I can't even say. Maybe
Zay
like
Flowers
Mingo.
was close. Mingo. You're saying you would rather have one of them guys? I mean, probably Flowers, definitely, but
Flowers is
it's
probably a
close.
little bit.
Later in the year, if you think you got the 112, you wouldn't ship it out for Pierce?
I
don't
mean,
think
that's pretty much what I'm saying. Like, I would do that knowing that, hey, I'm probably going to be having to ditch this dude for maybe after my run. You know what I'm saying? It's just like a question that I have for these running backs. It's like, how long am I really going to keep these running backs on my team anyways? I think we should be ditching them all all the time and going to get some new ones. You know what I'm saying? Just like the NFL fucking does. Unless you got Breece Hall. I mean, Breece Hall's and where Jonathan Taylor going to draft? Was he a first round pick? He was, right?
Second.
Damn,
You're
he
talking.
was
You're talking about the NFL draft.
I mean, NFL draft. Yeah, NFL draft. But
I want to say he was a first. I know Clyde went ahead of him.
man, we're gonna have to bring some people on. We're gonna have to talk about that one because this running back situation is tough to me. I like think about this, Kraft. I'm real high on Rashad White. I even got him on my list over here. He was drafted in the 3rd round. That's day 2 draft capital. I'm still after this year would probably be thinking about ditching his ass and trying to sell him if I could.
Yeah, if you're not an absolute stud, then they are going to replace you most likely. I mean, my thing is economically though, if Pacheco, a 7th round pick, is just as good as what you're going to get in the draft and not have to pay the 2nd round draft capital price, it would make more sense for these teams to build, elsewhere, being that the running back room is not that important. So why not have a Pacheco there? It's kind of like the 49ers with Brock Purdy. If he's the guy and they're not paying him anything, why you can build your whole team around him. So in a running back position, if you could just not have to spend $8 million a year on a running back, why would you want to?
Yeah. It's just tough, man. It's just tough.
Then we got to go back to situation too. The Isaiah Pacheco plays for the Kansas City Chiefs. They're perennial Super Bowl contenders. They got a good line. They got all this. Damian Pierce plays for the Houston Texans, the dog shit of the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, Pacheco's a solid RB2. He put up RB2 numbers all year. But I guess people ain't looking for an RB2. You know what I mean?
But you remember last year we were talking about Clyde, sell now, sell now, sell now.
Right.
I mean, Clyde had his games at the start of the year where it was just touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. And
he touched the ball 5 times. He touched the ball a total of 5 times, and he had like 20, almost 30 fantasy points.
Yeah. And not just that, but McKinnon had 8 receiving touchdowns last year also. So as soon as Clyde went down, McKinnon's scoring all the touchdowns. And you're talking about Clyde's coming back. You got Pacheco there. So you're going to have 3 guys there. And Pacheco doesn't seem like he was the goal line back last year. McKinnon's most of his work was in the receiving game as far as his touchdowns went, but
I feel like Pacheco was the goal line back by the end of the year, though.
he was for a little stretch, but with Clyde there, who knows? Who knows if he's going to be? And they throw the ball around the goal line more than any other team in the NFL, so you can't really count on Pacheco going out there. Pacheco's sort of reminding me of like Brian Robinson was last year, where it's like the stats look good at the end of the game, 15 carries for 80 rushing yards, but no catches and no touchdowns. You just can't. 85 yards sounds great, but if it gives you 8.5 points in fantasy in a full PPR league, is that really helping your team?
But Pacheco was doing more than 8.5 games. He was getting double digits every time. B-Rod wasn't doing
Clyde
that.
wasn't there.
But hey, real quick though, before we move on to another person, I said it. Clyde's gonna have an impact at some point. He's gonna have a stretch next year. And when he has that stretch next year, we need to sell Clyde Edwards-Helaire, just like me and the Crabman was saying last year. I would do it again.
Man, I got offered like, what was it? Jordan offered me first, and it might have been 2 firsts, and I didn't take it. But
He offered,
it don't matter though, cause I got this motherfucker right here. That's why it don't goddamn matter.
hey, Chris is the champ. That's all I'm gonna say. All right. Well, shoot, real quick. I got a little list. Crap, you got any more people on your list, real quick? You want to throw some running backs out there for us?
Yeah, I like Jalen Warren. And Tyler Algier. I think you were going to bring him up, but premier handcuffs and especially with Warren, he was more efficient than Najee was on his carries last year. So there could be Jalen Warren could get 50% of the snaps and be the main pass catching back this year. So his value might be close to Najee, and he could really surprise some people, and especially just you might be getting a little more than a handcuff.
And I would say the same. I would put in the same boat Jerome Ford for the Cleveland Browns. The Browns didn't go out there and get nobody. They didn't get nobody at running back. So, or if they did, it had to be late. I can't even fucking remember. But Jerome Ford, he's another handcuff I would get. But Tyler Algier, you're right. Tyler Algier to me is the number one handcuff in the game. Would you disagree with that one, Crab? But basically replacing Alexander Madison. He was always the number one handcuff all them years. Tyler Algier is the number one handcuff now.
Yeah, it was between Pollard and Madison as number one handcuff there for a while, and then now I think it's Algier, and I mean, like I said, I don't think Jalen Warren's a bad one. He's up there as far as handcuffs go. AJ Dillon, if you want to call him a handcuff, he gets about just as many snaps as Aaron Jones. But yeah, I'm with you. Algier would, as far as when Bijan got drafted, his ADP just plummeted. If you want to go out there and try to acquire Algier, it would be a good time to do so.
What's it take to get an Algier? Well, hey, Chris, you got Algier. Somebody said, hey, I'll give you a second-round pick for Algier. Would you take it?
I don't think I would at this point. It's just because these rookie running backs, they go to these great situations where they're going to run the ball and it's going to be all fine, and then they tear their ACL. They get hurt.
Right.
The guy that they had to lean on the year before is going to be thrust right back into that role, and I think Tyler Algier is going to be the perfect one to fill that role. Like, I think he's even going to have a good bit of role with Bijan, but obviously, I mean, Bijan, you can't not have the dude on the field.
Right. Algier rushed for 1,000 yards just last year. So, yeah. If Bijan goes down, I mean, Algier to the moon. Then you'd be looking to sell Algier and be like, I ain't selling him unless you give me a first. That's what I would say.
Yeah. and there's a couple players. Yeah, there's a couple players too that you could, if you're more of a rebuild team, I mean, you can go out there and maybe get rid of Connor. I'm saying this is for a rebuilding team who really doesn't have a chance in winning. If you wanted to ship off like David Montgomery, Damian Harris, something like that, I think that's a deal you could get done to get a little younger. But Algiers, he's one of them guys that's like a 5th round pick too. But if you're a team that's not contending and you have players like that on your roster, Jamal Williams, go ahead and ship him off. Get Algier. They're going right back-to-back in ADP too. So that's just, I would rather have Algier if I wasn't contending rather than somebody like a Connor who's going to have probably one more really solid year and then he might be done.
he's probably going to get. Yeah, if I'm a contender, I'm definitely going out there and getting James Conner if I can. That Joker's the workhorse. He's going to get 97% of the carries or whatever. I always say 97 because I think that's the truth. I think that's the number. But hey, with that said, go get Keontae Ingram. I like Keontae Ingram too. So as a handcuff, not like these other guys. I'd rather have these other guys.
Yeah.
But
Tank Bigsby, I'm still high on him as a handcuff right now too.
Bigsby.
Yeah.
I know before the podcast, Chris brought up Josh Downs. I drafted Josh Downs in a draft in the late second, but some people are super high on Josh Downs. I'm talking about super high.
Yes.
So, and you never even know. I mean, just because me and Kraft was on here breaking down film, we ain't like scouts and shit like that. Josh Downs might be good as fuck. Which means Anthony Richardson's good as fuck, which means we're wrong and we've been talking shit for no reason.
Not necessarily. Like
That's true.
Chris mentioned, the
You
slot.
talking about Cam Newton 2.0? Dude, he's just like Cam Newton. Everything just like him, man. No. The narrative that y'all were talking about Anthony Richardson had me cracking up because I had seen some people posting shit on Twitter talking about Anthony Richardson's going to be the best thing to happen for the Colts since Andrew Luck, and I was almost spit up when I read that shit.
Yes.
I was like, okay.
Andrew Luck was in that rare air as far as prospects go.
Hell, Michael Pittman was one of my biggest flops on the year. I penciled Michael Pittman in at like top 15 easily, even like top 12, I think.
Where did Pittman finish, Kraft? Do you remember? Can't even remember.
Like in the 30s, I thought.
Yeah, it was bad.
So,
on a lot of receptions too.
Well, it sounds like it. That's our not so sexy list right there of young guys that you can go out there and require, whether you're rebuilding or competing. In my opinion, and you can, if you're rebuilding and you want to keep it fresh and you want to keep it young, if you can get trade an old guy and get one of these young guys that we just mentioned, do it, especially at the wide receiver position. But, that list wasn't sexy though, was it, Kraft?
It wasn't. It was not sexy, except for Jahan Dotson. He's pretty sexy.
Yeah, he's sexy. I ain't gonna deny it. He didn't even belong on this list, but the dude ain't getting enough respect. We had to toss him in here,
Not even close. Not even close to enough respect as for having as good of a rookie season he did.
Right. So a Pickens, maybe a Pickens out there. I know we talked about him too much in that last episode. We couldn't bring Pickens up this time, but Pickens, go get Pickens for the cheap. So,
what about you guys? Y'all mentioned it, Justin Ross. Do you want to try to do something like that?
Give me Justin Ross. Let's go.
For like a third or a fourth round pick, like shot in the dark, and then just sit his ass on the taxi until maybe he gets on the field.
Hey, man.
Other than that, it's just like, that's like, if that's your last pick in your startup or something, yeah, hell, it could pay off.
He might not be a bad last pick in that best ball. You know what I'm saying, Crab? That last pick, I'd like to scroll way down. I'm just looking to see what's up. You know what I mean? With that 18th pick, might have to go get Justin Ross one time. See how it goes.
Tell the story about the last pick in the draft. I remember when I first started playing fantasy with you guys when we started doing the league. One year, my last pick in the draft, in our draft, was Noshawn Moreno when he played with Denver.
Yeah.
He was the number one running back that season. He was the number one running back that season.
That's back in them younger days right there. That was back when I used to draft and not even set my lineups and shit.
Oh, man. Hey, I do got a couple questions.
Jackson and all them were playing. Brian Hartline and all them used to play that.
Jesus.
Go ahead, Crab. What's the questions you got for us?
I got a couple questions. I want y'all to just say that, throw ADP out the window. Kansas City, what receiver do you want? If you had to take the shot, which receiver are you taking your shot on? Chris.
Justin Ross. No, it's probably just going to be Kadarius Toney. I mean, I don't know. Scott Moore, when we talked talked about it earlier. This dude was muffing punts, and I feel like if you can't catch a punt, how the fuck are you supposed to catch a pass? You know, like, I think Kadarius Toney's got the most upside right now.
Look, man, Kraft, I'm just gonna be honest. I think I've seen enough from Kadarius Toney, and I'll give Sky Moore a little bit credit because he did score a touchdown in the Super Bowl, so it's like they trust him a little bit. But shoot, go ahead and throw me Rashee Rice. I'll just take the shot on the unknown. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't know what that dude's gonna be, so just give me that. But Kadarius Toney. I'm gonna just go ahead and say it, Kraft. He's gonna have games where he goose eggs you, but he's gonna have some good games. But let's just see what the young guys got. You know what I mean?
He's a better punt returner than Scott Moore, that's for sure.
Hating on that man's punt return ability. All right, what about this one? Throw ADP aside, the New York Giants. If you have to take a shot on a receiver there, what do you think, Chris? I'm taking Wan'Dale with the Giants. Second round draft pick last year. Shoot, he might have even been a first. I'm not 100% sure.
I think he was a first, wasn't he?
He was high. I'm gonna say second, but he was high up there for sure. And he was just like Kadarius Toney, was what they were saying.
Which was weird. But now we know why.
So he was always injured and he didn't play. That's the comparison.
Hey man, crap.
But yeah, Wan'Dale Robinson.
Give me Isaiah Hodgins, man. He's my favorite best ball pick. I ain't ever picked Wan'Dale Robinson, but I picked Isaiah Hodgins like 10 plus times, man. You just throw me Isaiah Hodgins in that 18th round. I got it.
He's like the only receiver on that team who actually is like an X receiver and is not a slot guy. They just have a bunch of fast slot guys, small. They got Paris Campbell now too. Jalen Hyatt's still there, so I guess y'all are out on Hyatt. Period. If y'all aren't gonna, if he's not.
Man, you know what? I feel like I shouldn't be out on Hyatt like that. You know, I kind of disrespected Hyatt a little bit. I feel like, but he just doesn't fit it for me. I don't know. It just seems like weird. Jalen Hyatt seems weird to me. He's gonna have to prove something that I didn't see in that film breakdown. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but yeah, I would think Wan'Dale if it was me. I like Hodgins though. Slayton, I'm not in Dynasty as much, but Slayton might have a couple decent games here and there. Right. They probably all will just have some good games every now and again.
But shoot, I feel like that wraps it on up, fellas. Thanks for listening to the podcast. That was our not so sexy list right there of young guys that if you want to keep it fresh, there you go. So thanks for listening to the pod, everybody. We have definitely seen more viewers this off season. Thank you for that. Get the word around. We ain't really, your shit talking crew like that. We just like to just get on here and talk about the fake stuff. You got anything to say, Craft Man?
No, just one thing. I mean, we get on here, we share our opinions and everything, and we're high on players and low on some players, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't make your own call. We try to help out a little bit, but we get on here and have fun and just have good conversation most of the time. And, if you're high on a guy and one of us aren't and we're just shitting on him the whole time, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be right. We try our best to, do the analytics game a little bit. We watch football every Sunday. That's one thing we always do. But, just go out there and make informed decisions. And we're just here to try to help you along the way. We're not trying to tell you what to do and what not to do. We're just trying to help.
Right. Yep. And here's another thing I want to say. We ain't out here just sitting here making hot takes or whatever just to bring in viewers and shit like that. Like, we just saying what we feel like. This ain't even about getting big for me, man. I'm doing this till the day I die. So, you know what I mean? Like, we ain't out here making hot takes, bringing in the viewers and shit like that. This is just your honest opinion. Like, go get these young guys, add some value to your team, and go win your leagues. And then hit us up and tell us all about it. Chris, our tech guy, you got anything to say, man?
No, we're gonna be working, especially when the season comes out. I've kind of got some ideas on how I want to Get some more stuff rolling out. Get us out on different platforms.
Right.
Get everything up and running. Get us back on YouTube.
Yep.
So.
Hey man, shout out to the tech guy Chris. This shit ain't even happening without Chris. So, but shoot, crap. I think that about wraps it on up. Thanks for listening, man. But we out.
Peace.